The doubts are really something unproductive. Like they can be productive, a percentage of it, where it's like, okay, problem and solution finding, but like most of the rest of the doubt are unproductive. I don't understand why we doubt ourselves so much, and I think that's what like stopping so many people from doing like amazing projects that the rest of the world could like benefit from.
Do you ever wish you could quit your job and pursue your dreams? Maybe that lingering business idea that's been in the back of your head? This isn't another series about million-dollar ideas. Bizpirations features stories of everyday people just like you, people just like me, but the difference is they chose to take a chance. 99% of people will stay exactly where they are. These are the 1%, the other 1% that chose to be different. Let's dive in. Julie?
Yes.
Thank you for having us here today at llena. Before we get into your journey from yacht chef to boutique cafe clothing store owner, what does the audience need to know about you that's relevant to the story?
Like where it all started, or
Anything that is like anything about you or something from your childhood, maybe in particular, that comes to mind that is relevant to like where we are, how you're here, how you got here, anything like that.
I think like a part of me would be probably instinctively saying like, I don't know how I got here, because it's just like you dream of something and then it happens and then you never thought it was possible. But if I think about it like longer, then I'll get to know that it's every step of the way kind of led me there, and it was all part of the journey. But yeah, I've worked in a lot of industries, the clothing industry and like restaurants and hospitality industry. So combining those two together kind of like made sense, I guess, somehow.
And where are you originally from?
I'm from Quebec, Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
And how did you end up in Costa Rica?
It's a long family story. So my dad's been here in the winter time. We have really harsh winters in Quebec. He moved here as a snowbird about 35 years ago and bought this little square of land that we're on and started building what is now a small hotel, like Airbnb. And then, yeah, about 8 years ago, I came here to come and see where he was at with everything. His wife had died at the time, and then he was kind of alone managing it. And he wasn't following with kind of the online and, you know, digital side of the business. So I came to just see it, and then all of his friends were like, you must stay, like take over and help him. So I did, I guess. Yeah, that was 8 years ago. I went back home and sold everything and then kind of came here to do this full time.
Did you grow up coming down here and staying at the hotel? What was that like as a kid?
Yeah, I came a few times. I wouldn't say like every year or something, but like short times. They were always like 1 or 2 weeks. But yeah, I've been coming since I was 7.
Okay. And what kind of jobs did you have growing up in Quebec?
Well, I worked in the like restaurant and bars industry for 12 years or maybe more. And then after that period, I started working in the film industry, doing costume and props and decor. And this is what I quit when I moved here.
Okay. And what, like when you look back at moments in your life that have led you to now being off, like having a business of your own, was there any moments that stick out when you're like, screw this, like I'm doing this?
Mostly winters. I really don't like the cold. I feel like I'm just not equipped for cold. And like most of all is like living outside, just being out in the elements all the time. Yeah, that was kind of my my reason to move, I guess. There's also the fact that I find here there's so much more opportunities and possibilities to like do things that you can't really find in like the real square places like North America. It's like everything's like harder to get going or try to make it, and I feel like here there's like just more space for that.
And is there anyone in particular you'd say that's been inspirational or an influence to going on this journey on your own?
I don't really know. I mean, maybe my dad, I guess. Yeah. He lives it in a very different way than I do. My dad lives like in a little village in Canada, and here he lives in a very little village as well, so he's not like a traveler or is not like a worldly person. But yeah.
Sounds like traveling is important for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me more about your travels.
Well, I guess, I don't know. I like traveling because it just brings me more inspiration to like keep going and do other things. This place is beautiful. It's amazing and so full of like energy and all that. But like sometimes I just need to get out of the small town and go explore some other things. Yeah.
What is there any place that comes to mind in particular that you're like, this was a really special trip for me?
Not a trip, but one place that I really do love and that I would like to explore more is Mexico. I just think that they tick so many boxes as far as like culture, food, art, craftsmanship, and stuff like that. I think it's very rich.
Are those all things that you try and now like integrate into llena? Do you think your interest in craftsmanship and culture is important for what you offer here?
I think it's mostly to try to like bring in a lot of different things. Just like this is a coffee shop, also a store, also a place where you can host like workshops. We do events and like bringing people together. I think this is really what I was trying to create, and as far as like a community space where you can create and I don't know, evolve, and it doesn't have to stay like what it is in the beginning, you know, and it has like space to grow.
So what is, let's go into llena. What is llena?
It's a concept store, I guess, and it's also a coffee shop and a boutique and a space for workshops.
And what was tell me about the day that you decided to do this. Were you on the yacht? Were you back home in Canada? What was the moment when you were like, I'm in?
I've had the permit to operate like this coffee/store for over 6 years, and initially the idea was to operate it out of my tiny house. I live in a really tiny house. It's probably the size, like twice of this frame that we see right now is my entire house. Which I have like a ladder to climb down to, like a shower, and it's really tiny. But the idea was like initially to have like the bed pull up to the wall and like that it transforms into this cafe store in the daytime, and then at night it turns into my house. So what can you make like the most out of like this tiny space was the idea. So the permit's been there for a long time. I guess I kind of pushed it aside when I started running the business and it got really busy. My house also is kind of like the info center or like the reception of the hotel. So having people in and out all the time or at the door all the time was already kind of like a pretty big, not invasion of my private space, but you know what I mean? Like there's no boundaries there. And like the idea of adding like stuff on the shelves that is not really mine, but like for sale was just too much. So I kind of put it aside and I did more pop-up shops. I would show up at hostels and like the beach and other things whenever I had like free time on the weekend, and started selling secondhand clothing.
Where would you get the clothes from?
So A lot comes from Costa Rica. So if you just take Capos, for example, it's about 25,000 people, I believe. You'll find probably 10 secondhand shops in Capos. Most of the clothing shops are actually secondhand. And they're containers that are shipped from the States that end up in, like, poorer countries, if you'd like, and they are sold by the weight. And so they just redistribute that way. Yeah, so there's a lot of secondhand options here. And like what I usually pick is not necessarily what the locals will pick, because it's like more of a tourist audience than the local people. So I find a lot of like vintage gems. And
So let's go into like where we're sitting now, like this building here. Did you build this for llena, or what was the concept behind this building here?
So this space was actually started building last year in November, and we were gonna make it, or my dad's plan was to make it a real estate office or a space for rent. So he was like going for office space. And then as I was seeing it being built and hearing it every morning, more and more it was kind of like becoming obvious that it should be the space for llena. And this was like a hard conversation to have with my dad. He was not into it at all, didn't quite believe in the idea. But eventually, with some more conversation, we managed to have an understanding, come to an agreement.
What was so tell me about the construction process of building this with your dad here every day. Did you get to make decisions, or like what were those conversations like?
So regarding the construction, so initially he had a very strict kind of idea of how it was going to be. This was going to be like the secretary space and so on. And for me to have the vision of a coffee shop, you need, water entries and sinks and stuff like that, and space for fridges. And he was not having it. He was like, no, this is my design. Like, if you want to try doing a store, you can, but don't change it all, because it's probably not going to work anyway. So, but, we had further conversation, and I managed to get like the littlest sink here in the front, and then, kind of organized it the way that I was seeing it to be functional. It's very tiny. There's no kitchen here. There's no stovetop, but we manage and kind of like make it happen with this. I'm used to small spaces with my house and the boat life. So,
yeah, would you say kind of your house and then working on the boats? I mean, it's not like you have big 42-inch range. So, how have those two experiences, has it boosted your confidence with what you can do here, or how has it influenced, utilizing what you have?
Yeah, so for having worked on yachts the last 3 years in the low season as a chef, that did kind of like sort of showed me how you can, deal with space and like provisioning and all these things, which can be complex on a boat. Small spaces and moving spaces, most of all. This doesn't move, so this is great. And yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a headache sometimes to try to figure out how to cook things and how to keep them warm and so on. But I guess I like the challenge because I keep repeating the pattern. So it's like somewhere, somehow, this is how it has to be for me.
And is there anything particular that you like to offer here, maybe that you can't find other places?
Well, for a start, I've got diagnosed celiac 3 years ago. So obviously like gluten-free and dairy-free items for me are kind of a fun thing to offer. And then it's not that available around here, so it's nice for that.
Yeah. And so what about like who else is part of this store here? So we have you at the cafe.
Yeah.
Some clothes. What else is going on in here?
So I kind of have half of the retail space as well, where there's clothing, books, and so on. And then that's shared with Alex and Jess, which own the other 2 stores. So this is their 3rd location now.
And who else do you have in here? Like, are you making these surfboards behind you, or?
No, this is so it's named llena Collective because we're trying to bring in other friends or, artists and stuff like that want to have a space to sell their beautiful things, such as Monique, which is part of the collective. She's an artist from Holland that lives in Uvita, which is an hour south. And she has her studio down there, but this is kind of her gallery space up here in Manuel Antoni.
And so, like, I live here, and coming from the States, I love, like, good food, good sandwiches. And how have you, like, taken... I don't know, I feel like I just pestered you when I heard you're opening this place to have good sandwiches, and I'm so grateful you do. But tell me about, how do you take some of your creativity, because you don't have a big menu, small space. So what kind of creativity do you use to incorporate new, maybe like luxury food into your menu coming out of here as well?
I love that he called it luxury. And maybe that's what I meant when I said that everything is kind of like possible here, because there's all these things you can create. The competition is different, and it's in different places, but like such as food, we don't have that many options here. There's great options, but there's not that many of them. And so for me, having like a small space and a slower way of like offering food, because we're not, a big restaurant with a whole kitchen and staff. It allows me to do like a special of the week and then really focus on that special and then go deeper into like the creation of that special. So it's like a slow process where there's more space to just go a little more creative and deeper into it.
What kind of specials have you had here?
So the specials have to be kind of thought through in the process, because like I said, there's no kitchen or stovetop. So a lot of like cold or raw items such as like ceviche, or it can be poke tuna. If I'm gonna go with warm items, they have to be in a slow cooker or something that keeps warm. So yeah, these are kind of like the specials.
What do we have this week? I missed out on. Hopefully get some today.
Well, this week was like a Thai fusion coconut mai ceviche.
Ooh. And let's go talk about some different milestones that you've had here. So I guess, what do you think was the first one, like getting the permit? Like, what was getting the permit like?
So because I did the permit a while ago, that was kind of out of the way, but it's not hard or complicated, but some of the steps when you are in a third world country are just different what you would expect maybe back home. So the processes are a little bit like just not more complex or harder, but they don't go like in the order that you would think. So you'll have like step backs, but then you'll be able to like work around loopholes that work in your favor. So it's like it works out in the end, but sometimes it's just like a headache a little bit to get things going, just because everything is a little bit slower. Some of the systems are a bit older, and so to get going, it's
so you have your permit. What do you think the next like big milestone was, like deciding, hey, like I'm doing this, as opposed to like your store, like your house? Or what do you think was the next kind of big milestone and to get to where we are today?
For my side of things, it was like mostly the food part, because I had worked in the food and beverage industry, either as like a waiter or when I worked on boats, I was a chef. And so, but there's like, it's a bit like of an unlimited budget. You don't really have to plan around food and costs and making a profit, right? You're just serving quite wealthy people, and you just give them what they want. So it's a very different thing when you're trying to like make money with food. For me, that was kind of the hardest part of putting this together, as well as the logistic behind not having the kitchen and very small staff. It's just me and one person in the store. So it's 2 of us full time.
So tell me more about figuring out your food cost, the budget. Like, hi, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, teach me what you now know.
Oh, I just know that I don't know much. Every day I'm reminded of that. But, you know, it's like it's a work in progress. And I'm just willing at this point to fail so I can learn. It's like there's so many industries or like places in your life where you learn from better people than you. In this case, I'm learning from my mistakes, which can be like tiring sometimes, but because you're like solo in the project, it's like that's how it is. But it's fine. It works for me for now. But what I know now than I didn't know before, I can't even tell you. Every day is like a new learning experience for sure.
Tell me more about some of the mistakes you made here.
Well, it's just so hard to plan. Like I said, usually working on a boat, it's like, you know, how many people you're going to feed how many days. Like here, it's like, is there like 20 people that are going to come in for a poke bowl or 0? And then it's like, so you waste food and you learn how to conserve things. And so, yeah, this would be like still to this day, a little bit, you know, my learning curve is like how to plan and like really make it in a way that it can be profitable and not just for fun. I have a tendency to just want to feed people, make them happy, but it's like sometimes you just gotta be able to, like, you know, buy the next groceries so you can feed them again. So yeah, this is the learning curve.
And take me back to the day you got like the keys to this place. What was the setup process like?
Well, I'm very grateful that I have like my 2 best friends in the project, so that made it so much easier to like just create together. I think the retail space of things was exciting. It was so nice to like put a vision together and like really see it coming together. So yeah, it was fun actually. I would do it all over again.
And what about the first night that you had your soft opening? Take me back there. Describe it for our audience. I mean, I was there, so cheating, but
Yeah.
take the audience there. What was it like for
awesome.
you?
I think it was great. I was very, very happy with like how it turned out, how many people came, like our whole little community was here and beyond. It turned into a great party and like, I don't know, it was very, very fun.
What were your emotions that night?
Oh my goodness. I think it's like, yeah, this was the first day that we opened, right? The party, and it was just like every smile from everybody, every like, wow, it's so beautiful or whatever, from like comments from people with just like confirmation. And it's like you spend all these months kind of like having a vision and creating as you go, and then you just have so many doubts like creeping in all the time, and you're like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Is this going to be successful? Am I crazy? Do I like have an idea that's just not, you know, relevant? And then having everybody like just being stoked is like, it's crazy. It's okay. You're like, okay, I'm not, you know, it makes sense. And it's like,
And I mean, as those doubts are creeping in, I mean, like, do you like lose sleep at night thinking about this? And like, how do you suppress it?
yeah, I don't know. The doubts are really something unproductive. Like they can be productive, a percentage of it, where it's like, okay, problem and solution finding, but like most of the rest of the doubt are unproductive. Really, it's just like creeping anxiety, crippling anxiety, which I try to really manage. But it's like, I don't know. It's like I don't understand why we doubt ourselves so much, and I think that's what like stopping so many people from doing like amazing projects that the rest of the world could like benefit from. But it's like these doubts that just creep in. But it helps to be like with friends and like push forward with people that have the same vision as me.
And do you still have some of these doubts?
Yeah. Especially on the food side of things, because this is like for me the most uncomfortable part of it. The clothing for me is easy, and like the, you know, all the retail space, I think already I have like confirmation on that side that it's just working. And but yeah, the food part is hard. It's just the amount of food that you have to sell to like make a profit, and there's like waste and all that stuff. It's still such a challenge, but if it wasn't, then maybe I'd be bored, you know, who knows? It's like, if it was easy, you know.
What would you say are some hardships of doing business here in Costa Rica?
In Costa Rica specifically, or just in general, like abroad?
You can do a little bit of both.
Yeah. Abroad would be just to be away from like what you know and like your general concept of like how things should be, and family and friends. And as far as Costa Rica, I mean, nowhere is perfect, right? This is perfect for me, but yeah, it definitely comes with like cultural differences and like systems and stuff like that. So the hardships would be just trying to do everything in a different language and with a different culture system. Things take a little longer than you would want them to be, but it's okay. It just teaches you to like slow down and like go with the flow a little bit more.
And in terms of like being away from family, I mean, your dad goes back and forth. What does he do?
My dad goes back and forth about 6 months on and off here. I stay here year round. I usually go to Canada for 2 weeks out of the year, something like that. Now, when it comes to living abroad, it brings a little bit of harder times when like family gets sick and stuff like that. So for example, tomorrow I fly to Canada to go see my grandma because she's most likely leaving us in the next week. So these are kind of things that can be hard, especially if you can't make that time or like make the flight to go see your family. I'm lucky enough that I managed to like scramble and book this flight and go tomorrow. But yeah, it's those are the moments where you find yourself feeling really far from your family and your friends, like if someone gets sick or passes away.
And what's it been like now living here with your dad full time for 3 years? You've been back? Right, he's been back for 3 years? Kind of full time here?
Him or
you?
Oh, I've been here 8 years total. And then the last 3 years I was gone for more than half the year. After the pandemic, that's when I started working on boats, and that was like a little bit more successful for me than staying back here. So I kind of spent most of the year out on the boat. But yeah, living with my dad is great. He's only here half the year. When he's here, it's full on, not only because it's high season, but because he's a very productive person in general. He's up at 5 and just doing. So it's an interesting dynamic between me and my dad. It's definitely intense. We never really argue so much or anything like that, but it's like it's a very energetic relationship. Yeah, we like manage a business together, and you know, there's a lot of people coming and going, so it's a revolving door of a lot of ups and downs and stuff like that.
And how was it trying to implement some changes when you got back here, bringing the hotel up into the age of the internet?
You know, in the beginning, I really wanted to bring a lot of like what I thought would be better, but I also had to learn to keep his vision and the way he functions and kind of like slowly integrate, you know, better ways of like possibly functioning. It was also new for me. I never worked in hospitality as far as like hotel business. so I had to learn as well. But yeah, I tried to not come in too harsh and like not be like this is how it should be, like changing everything, because my dad's a kind of a man of habits and stuff like that. So you got to take his vision, take his way of doing things, and then add on to it, and together like it works out pretty well.
And is there anything that happens around here during high season that is like what the Castillo is known for?
Well, there's the infamous Tuesday dinners that we've been doing for over 20 years now. It started with like just my dad and his friends jamming music, and like now we host about 50, 60 people every Tuesday, and it's just the same meal for everyone. It's not like a restaurant endeavor, but it's everybody gets like their plate, and there's a little bar, and we have like an open mic type thing going on. And I think these events have been going on for a long time, every Tuesday.
And what's it like? So you have the store here, and you also manage a hotel.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that experience.
Well, the store is fairly new, and we decided to open it in a slower part of the year, which is manageable for me right now to do both. But definitely in the high season, I think it's going to be a great challenge to deal with all these tasks and stuff. But yeah, it's I basically live in this store right now, and if not, I sleep next door, and so I just walk between the two places all day. And yeah, it's been interesting.
I'm sure throughout this whole process, people have been giving you lots of advice, what to do, what not to do this, do that. Mm-hmm. Tell me about some of the best advice you've gotten, and also some of the worst advice.
I think I wouldn't say that I've had like the best advices. Like the best advice for me is like more just having someone that supports you and think that you can do it, whatever it is. Like whenever you're like, oh, I would like to do this, whoever is like behind you being like, yeah, like do it, you know. I think that's the best advice you can get, is like just support and like people believing in your ideas. The worst advice is just people thinking, why are you doing this? This might not work. Or like, it's like people that project their own fears onto you. Even like when it comes to like moving abroad, a lot of people will be like, are you sure you want to do this? What if this happens? Why are you leaving? You know, I'll always remember one of my very good friends being like, when I told them that I was leaving and moving to Costa Rica, most of the people were like, cool, awesome, this is great, you know, we'll have a new place to go. But some of my friends would be like, why are you leaving? And that's crazy, you know. And for me, the idea of staying was crazier, so I just had to go. But yeah, this is just mostly people projecting their own like doubts and fears onto you.
And what advice do you have for someone who is thinking about quitting their job or starting their own business?
I'd say do it. Yeah, do it. I think the most important thing is not necessarily to have it all figured out and planned out. For me, the most important thing is having the right community in which you can land and like fall onto if you need to, and having the right like friends. It doesn't matter if like you have your whole family there, but if you have the right friends, they can support you as family.
And looking back on, say, take me back to the day that you made the decision to move down here full time. You're walking down the jet bridge to get on the airplane. Julie now to Julie then, what would you tell yourself?
I don't know. I think maybe that everything's possible, but I think I believed that everything was possible even more then, because I was younger and less attached to some ideas of success. So I think I would actually tell myself now, remember who you were then, and everything's possible. Yeah, that would be a reverse thing, probably.
Well, how would you define success?
I think it's just really being able to do something that you like and that brings you joy. It doesn't really matter. Like, as long as it, like, for me, as long as it allows me to do what I want to do, like as far as like, you know, paying my bills, obviously, and having a little bit of like financial freedom to do travels, and be able to feel comfortable if something big happens. That's for me success for sure.
Do you have any goals personally by this time next year that you want to be at, personal goals and business goals?
Absolutely not. I just want to be happy. This is like, I think for having been in different, you know, state of minds throughout this whole journey, or just the journey of life, is like, I understand now that for me, like my main goal is just to be happy. Awesome. And I think everything will, like the moment that you're happy, the rest is there. Like there's like the abundance kind of like follows for what you need, not what you want.
Great. Well, hey, thank you for having us here today. If people want to find you online, come visit you in person, come eat your food, tell me where we can do all that.
Well, for the online part of this business, it's llena collective. And then for the hotel part, it's Castillo de la Riviera. Yeah.
And if we want to come visit, where do we have to go?
To Manuel Antonio. We're on the main road, so if you go between Quepos and Manuel Antonio, you'll find us. We're on the right side.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much.
You're
and I look forward to eating some food later today.
The ceviche.
Perfect. Awesome.
Cut. Delete. Start over.
Do it all over again. Let's do it. We'll start with when we walk in, make some coffee.
Thank you for watching this episode of Bispirations. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you're ready when the next episode comes out in 2 weeks. We'll see you then.